5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Welcome to your Media Mosh Podcast. I'm your host, Shane Beauregard, coming at you with all your news, reviews, and previews. Out to watch on your streaming services, your television, and your local theater. Hope everyone's had a great week. Coming at you Sunday night, August the 4th. And I'm finally back to normal after my Disney trip. It took about a week to decompress, but I'm finally there, so let's get right into it. There's only a little bit of news this week. Burt Ward, yes, of the original Batman series. I thought he was dead, and I'm sorry, Burt Ward, but really, I don't even know how old he is, but he's going to be on Crisis on Infinite Earth, the CW crossover with Arrow and all the other shows, and just announced today, Black Lightning is also going to cross over in that. I'll probably end up watching that miniseries or the first, whatever they usually do, 4 or 5 episodes on, one episode on every one of their shows. Just watch that, and that's about all I can do with these shows these days, but, yeah, I don't know what role he'll play, but I don't even know what he's been in since fucking Batman. Again, if this was a drinking game, I would have had a drink because I would have assumed he was dead. Which leads me to Adrienne Barbeau. And I'm going to talk more about this in a little bit, but I finished the Swamp Thing series on DC, and I knew she was cast in it. Dude, she's like in one scene, maybe 2, for 2 minutes tops. I feel like I got a little gypped. I needed a little more Adrienne Barbeau in this show. She still looks good, especially for her age. She's still looking pretty good. But yeah, it's disappointing, and I'll get to that review in a little bit. Other than that, the new Martin Scorsese Netflix film, The Irishman, came out. Listen, folks, it looks like a typical Scorsese film. You have Pacino, De Niro, Pesci. Yeah, these fuckers are old. Like, I knew they were old. Like, I knew De Niro was like mid-70s, but yeah, I mean, I looked up all their ages, and Pacino's 80 or 79. I mean, God. And the de-aging process in this movie, it looks pretty good, but it's, I'm excited for it. I love Scorsese movies, but this looks like your typical Scorsese film, so go check that trailer out. It comes out the last part of this year. The new Sam Mendes movie, 1917, with Benedict Cumberbatch and Colin Firth. I love Sam Mendes. He's probably one of my favorite directors. He popped on the scene with American Beauty, but my favorite's A Road to Perdition with Tom Hanks and Paul Newman. And he only has 9 directing titles under his belt, but they've all been pretty solid. I even like Jarhead with Jake Gyllenhaal, which is goes kind of under the radar a little bit. And he's just coming off the last 2 Bond films, which was a hit and a miss. So go check that trailer out. Looks very good. And The Hunt, a new Blumhouse movie, so you know it's going to make money, stars Hilary Swank and Betty Gilpin from Glow, the hot blonde from Glow. This is my kind of movie. I'm all over this. Pretty much this company, or we don't know what it is, they kidnap a bunch of people and throw them in this land, and they have to be hunted down by, I guess, people who pay to hunt people down. So, yeah, it's that type of movie. But with Betty Gilpin in the lead, I'm there. I'm in. It does not take much for me to go see a movie in the movie theater. So go check that trailer out. It also has Dennis from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia is in this movie as well. That's another reason why I'll probably go see it. In 13 Reasons Why, Season 3 trailer jumped on Netflix. Netflix should just release a 13 Reasons Why statement this fucking show's still on the air. Like, I watched Season 1, I reviewed it. It was terrible. Like, this is what kills me about Netflix. And we don't know anything because they never put out their numbers except for when a new Adam Sandler movie gets released or Bird Box, they always say it crushes it. But they cancel so many good fucking shows, and yet they leave a show like 13 Reasons Why on this. And I heard Season 4 is going to be the finale. How do you stretch this concept out for 4 seasons? I don't get it. I don't get it. But yeah, that's all the trailer and news I have for this week. So let's get into the box office wrap-up. Coming in at number 5, you have Toy Story 4, bringing in $7.1 million, which brings its grand total so far up to $410 million. Spider-Man Far From Home, $7.7 million, bringing its total to $360 million. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Second week out in release brings in $20 million, which brings its 2-week total to $78. And they had a budget of $90 million, by the way, so I'm sure it's going to make its money back. The Lion King still is killing right now, bringing in $38 million, which brings its 3-week total to $430 million. And last but not least, you have the Fast and Furious Presents Hobbs and Shaw, bringing in $60 million on opening weekend. But apparently this is the worst performing Fast and the Furious or Fast and Furious offshoot movie there's been in a decade. This movie cost $200 million apparently. And I know they did a shit ton of marketing and advertising because you can't go anywhere without seeing a commercial or a poster or whatever. I don't know. I mean, internationally is probably where it's going to make up its ground. But I will see that sometime probably this week. Coming out in theaters next week, August the 9th. There's actually a lot to choose from here, folks. So I may not get the Fast and Furious because I do have a couple ahead of it. You have Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. The Kitchen with Melissa McCarthy and Tiffany Haddish. And you have the new Dora and the Lost City of Gold movie, which I'll probably go see that with my daughter. As my VP just told me, we are having different date nights with her kids. So she's going to take my psycho son to go do something, and I have to take my daughter to go do something. And she wanted to do some fucking jump house, but I can't. I just can't. I've done so many jump houses lately, I can't do it. So I'm going to talk her into a movie. So that's what we'll probably go see. But the movie I want to see is the Peanut Butter Falcon, and I hope that gets I hope that's not a limited release next week. I hope that's nationwide, and that stars Shia LaBeouf. It's the modern day Mark Twain film. So that is number one on my list. So we'll see what happens next week, folks. On TV Land on Fox, you have the 90210 reunion show coming on Fox on August the 7th. On Netflix, August the 2nd, which was 2 days ago. You have the movie Otherhood with Patricia Arquette, Felicity Hoff, and Angelina Bassett. It's basically about 3 empty nest mothers who go visit their sons who don't call them on Mother's Day. So it's that type of, I don't even know if you want to call it rom-com. That's a little creepy with the mom aspect. It's a comedy. You have season 3 of She-Ra, the Princesses of Power, which I watched because of my kids. Yeah, DreamWorks redid it, and I actually like the direction they took it in. Yes, I did watch the original She-Ra because I watched the original He-Man. So I mean, it comes hand in hand when you watch He-Man. You have to watch She-Ra. And my daughter actually got into the first season, and they definitely changed the animated style of the show. But I do like what DreamWorks did with it, just like they did with Voltron. I think they're 2 for 2 right now. But next week, the watch of the week is Glow Season 3, which I don't know if it's going to be the last season. It should, but I'll keep you posted on that. And then on AMC, August the 12th, you have The Terror. It's a historical horror anthology series, and it looks fucking creepy as shit. So go give that a check. On Amazon Prime, you have Carnival Row coming out, which is a new series with Orlando Bloom. Haven't seen that dude in forever. And the eyebrow chick that played the Enchantress in Suicide Squad. Cara Delevingne, whatever. Cara something. That comes out Amazon Prime. That is a fantasy show. It's about a human and an elf or a fairy. They have to team up to try to figure out what's going on in some set world of London. Those are your watches for the week. Let's just jump right into what I watched this week. As I said before, I ended up watching The Swamp Thing. This is the finale. And right now the series is sitting at 95% on Rotten Tomato. And I'm pissed off about it just a little bit because, as I've discussed before, this show needed to be 13 episodes. And it originally was. And you can see it in the pacing of the show that everything was just too slow to develop. So as the episodes were progressing, I kept thinking to myself, how they got to start wrapping shit up pretty quick here. And I saw an interview with Derek Mears, I think that's how I pronounce his last name, the guy who plays Swamp Thing. And he was kissing the butts of the writers, saying how they came in, they reworked the script so it had a finite finale for the last episode, episode 10. So I was like, all right, coming from the mouth of the actor himself, I'm going to take his word for it. And, well, I don't mean to call him a liar, but he is a liar, a flat-out liar. So I'm still not going to spoil it for you because I do think it's a good watch. Just be prepared for a very, very slow developing plot. As a matter of fact, as the last episode was moving along, I kept thinking, I forgot what the original plot of the movie was. But let's just go into some of the non-spoiler stuff. I love the actress who played Abby Arcane. You really, Will Patton plays a really good villain, and you'd recognize him from tons of films. Jennifer Beals' character, she plays the sheriff. I thought they wrapped up her storyline just abruptly, and it really didn't go anywhere. The last episode, you do get Jake Busey. Briefly, in the last episode. Abby Arcane, the actress, is Crystal Reed. I've never seen her before. It kind of sounds like a stripper name, but she did a great job. So there just, and I said this last week, there just wasn't enough Swamp Thing for me, especially now that it's over. It does set up for a second season. It has a post-credit scene at the end of the episode, which directly leads to a fucking second season. So I don't know what else to say. Oh, and I told you Ian Zierling's in here. And for Ian Zierling standards, actually, this is probably some of the best acting that I've seen him do. And he plays the Blue Demon character, and that's another thing that felt rushed because they teased him early on in the series, and it's like the last two episodes they kind of rushed him. And when he finally gets sprung into action, I don't know. It's like that sets up him for season 2 as well. Because himself, he plays a stunt driver, stunt actor, who wants to play the lead and makes a deal with the devil. So he dons a Blue Demon suit, and he gets these powers. But apparently, at the beginning of the show, he's trapped in the city of Moray, and he can't leave, and he doesn't know why he can't leave. He has a purpose. He has to finish a mission here, and it has to do with Abby Arcane. So we finally see that come to fruition in the last episode, and he finally gets to leave the town, heading to who knows. So it leaves that open-ended. I'm just really disappointed in the whole thing because this show has tons of potential, and it was good. I don't agree with the 95%. I do like the tone of the show. I like the direction of the show. The acting's great. I like the story. It was just too slow, and for it to wrap up in 10 episodes kind of pisses me off. You know what's funny about some of these shows now, like the Netflix shows were originally all 13. And just coming off of watching The Boys, which was 8 episodes, Good Omens, which was 6 episodes, I just find like the sweet spot, for the most part, there are exceptions to the rule, but I think the sweet spot for a series is 8 episodes. You can tell an effective story in 8 and wanting the audience wanting more. Because usually within 13 episodes, you get a couple episodes that are like filler or forgettable. So, I don't know. This is one of those series that would have benefited from the original 13. So I don't think we'll ever see Swamp Thing again on the small screen. I'm hoping I'm wrong, but I doubt it gets picked up anywhere else, and I don't think DC is going to change its mind on bringing it back. So overall, I would give this entire series a 3.5 out of 5. Now, based on the other 2 DC streaming television shows, it's definitely, in my opinion, it's not nearly as strong as Doom Patrol. If you haven't watched Doom Patrol, you are missing out. That show is fantastic. And I'll honestly say I enjoy Titans overall more than Swamp Thing. And I can have that debate at a later time because it's close. It's really close. But I'll give the nod to Titans. Swamp Thing comes in last in my opinion. So let's move on to... I keep wanting to say It's Always Sunny. But Orange is the New Black Season 7. This is the finale. This is the last series. The last season, I mean. This is sitting at 97% of Rotten Tomato critic score with a 79% audience score. You can say this is one of the Godfather shows of the streaming services. This is one of the first ones put on by Netflix. It caught fire, and I will say... a lot of people jumped ship a couple seasons ago, and I don't blame them because it sagged in the middle. And I stuck with it First 2 seasons were really good, and then it kind of hit a lull for a couple seasons. But this last season, I will say, found its stride. It found what made it work. And it went back to its roots. It was funny when it needed to be funny. It had a lot of heart. It was well written, and I feel like every character got a chance to shine. Now, some of the characters, obviously, there's so many of them. Even the ones that haven't been on in the last couple seasons, you do get to see everybody that was on this show, even if it's for one scene. So I liked how they tied that all up. And, you know, some of these characters I'm watching, so you have... God, how can I break this thing down? You have Piper outside of prison now. She's trying to make her way in life. So it shows her trying to get a job, trying to amend relationships with her father, with the rest of her family, while trying to stay married or a relationship going with Alex. And honestly, her storyline, Piper, was the worst part of this series because I gave two shits about what was going on with her. This series dealt a lot with the whole ICE and immigration issue. So I did like that. You had Tasty, who was kind of given up because her appeal got denied and she was found guilty of killing that cop last season. Sorry, spoiler alert. So it's going through her ups and downs. You have Cindy, who got released as well. So I liked a lot of the story arcs in this show, and I'm not going to spoil it for you because I can tell you what happens with every character and how it ended for them. I will say this. If you jumped ship a couple seasons ago, I would say come back. And one of two ways. Watch season, I believe it's season 5, is the season that was the prison riot. So the whole season was based on the prison riot and some of the women, you know, taking these guards hostages. I would watch that season. That will springboard you to where these characters end up here in the situations that they're in. And honestly, just watch the recap, which is like a 5-minute recap at the beginning of episode 1. That'll get you caught up. Because if you were an original fan, I think you would be very satisfied on how the show wraps up. One of the better wrap-ups I've seen. You know, it's not in my top 5 or anything, but they do a nice job with everything. And you also have Diane Guerrero in here for a little bit. She makes her return, and she plays Crazy Jane on Doom Patrol, and she is fucking hot. I mean, she is hot in this. They did a great job earlier, because she was heavily involved in the first, 3 or 4 seasons. They hide a lot of her assets, if you know what I mean. But not in this fucking season. They're there. I enjoyed it. Give it a watch. I may get into spoilers if some people want to know where their characters ended up. I could touch upon that next week, but I'm not going to do it right this second. So I wouldn't go as high as the critics, but it was strong. I would give it I'm going to go ahead and give Orange is the New Black Season 7 a 4.25 out of 5. That's how strong it was for one of the original Netflix shows. Now, on to my last review. I finally got a chance to go see Once Upon a Time in Hollywood last night. Quentin Tarantino's 9th film. He is my favorite director of all time. I'm not afraid to admit it. I usually just humbly praise everything he does, except for Hateful Eight. Still can't get over that movie. And you're going to have to bear with me as I still try to process this movie. I wanted to love this movie. I like Brad Pitt. I like Margot Robbie. I even like Leonardo DiCaprio. It kind of has that... for me, I had that with 2 movies. I had that with Napoleon Dynamite, and I had that with The Big Lebowski. I hated those movies when I first saw them. Hated them. Especially The Big Lebowski. I could not stand that movie. But a year later, though I did have some drinks, I watched it again and just loved it. Just finally got what that movie was about. And it's one of my favorite movies of all time now. I don't like Napoleon Dynamite that much, but I do appreciate it on the second and third viewing. It's one of those movies that just gets better every time you watch it. So I think that's what this movie's going to end up being. It's funny. It's one of his funnier movies. So this movie, obviously, if you've seen the trailer, it's been all over the place. Leonardo plays Rick Dalton, a fading Hollywood movie star in 1969. He was like a John Wayne type of actor. And now he's guest starring on whatever hot actor is of the moment. So he's plays the heavy on all their shows. And Brad Pitt plays his stuntman, Cliff Booth. So this is a story about them two. And just what they go through on a day-to-day. And how Rick Dalton is coming to grips with his place in Hollywood. And his next door neighbor is Sharon Tate and Roman Polanski. Sharon Tate's obviously played by Margot Robbie, and she's supposed to be the... I don't know what kind of symbol she's supposed to play in this movie. I guess the hope and aspiration and just the naivety of the time. And I will say, I was afraid this movie was going to put Charles Manson in some kind of light and shed... I don't want to say glorify, that's the wrong word, but I didn't want him to be involved in this movie too much, and I was especially afraid of the ending of this movie. Without talking spoilers, you can take a breath, because they don't. The actor who plays Charles Manson is in this for one scene, and he's in there for like 30 seconds. I love the first act and the third act of this movie. The problem is, this movie has a runtime of 2 hours and 40 minutes, and to me, it sagged in the middle. Usually with a Tarantino film, you get more tension throughout the movie, and there is a story. So if you were to finish watching this like my VP, she did not like this movie at all. It's kind of like Seinfeld. You can say it's really about nothing. This is probably one of his movies that didn't have a lot of narrative. There wasn't a whole lot of story to this movie. So this movie could have been like 45 minutes to an hour shorter than it needed to be. But it's a Tarantino film, and I mean that in the best way. You have your dialogue, you have your world building in here. Great acting. I mean, as great as Leo was in this film, I think Brad Pitt stole the movie because he had all the best lines. He had probably the better scenes in this movie. There's been some criticism of how Margot Robbie was handled in this film, like she was just a klutz, a sex symbol. I didn't really see that too much. I didn't get that vibe. In fact, I read one review after I saw it that said he treated every woman like a slut. And obviously she's a feminazi because he does not. This is I feel like a personal love letter to Hollywood from his perspective. I feel like this is just a personal movie he wanted to make. I don't think he put Sharon Tate down in any way, shape, or form. And as far as the women in the film, I didn't see it that way. I loved the last 30 minutes of this movie. That's where everything kind of picks up. Without me, I'm not going to spoil anything. I wish more of the movie was like the last 30 minutes. And it's funny because you have an actor who plays Bruce Lee in this film, and he has a very pivotal role with Brad Pitt. And this kid behind me he was really mad on how they represented Bruce Lee on screen. I'm a huge Bruce Lee fan. But it's a fucking movie. It's a movie. Just get over it. It's a Tarantino movie. The actor who played Bruce Lee was great. He had every tick and mannerism down. I love that. You have Bruce Dern in here. You have Dakota Fanning, who I didn't even recognize at first. So you had Luke Perry did a good job. He was in one scene. My boy Timothy Olyphant had a couple scenes. He was really good. So overall, I did like the movie. Even though it was about nothing, and I even sat there and looked at my watch a couple times. I'm like, when is shit going to pick up? And honestly, it just... The thing that bothered me the most about this movie is, if you take a step back, you honestly didn't even need Margot Robbie in this movie, or Sharon Tate, to be honest with you, at all, the way it transpired at the end. So, the scenes with Margot Robbie kind of felt unnecessary, or just drawn out. Yeah, I'm not gonna say anything more because I don't want to go into spoiler review. You should see it because if you're a Tarantino fan, you won't be disappointed. The music was great. Everything was great about this movie, but the narrative just lacked for me. And if I had to place it in the Tarantino filmography, it would be near the bottom third. Is it better than Inglourious Bastards? No. The Kill Bills? No. Reservoir Dogs? No. Django? No. So, bottom third for me. Again, just based on the first viewing, I don't know what to say because I'm struggling a little bit here because as big as a fanboy as I am of Tarantino, in my opinion, his last couple films just haven't hit home with me. Like, he hasn't had a movie that I really like wanted to watch immediately after, probably since Inglourious Bastards, to be honest with you. And that was 2009, so that was like 10 years ago. I do not agree with the audience score on this. It's not a 71. I would honestly agree with the critics. It's an 85. I would go 3.75 out of 5. That's about as high as I can get it, folks. And I'll probably talk more about this movie next week and let people see it more. And I plan on doing a live show next week, so we can discuss this film if you want. I would love it if some people hit me up and we discuss this film, because I just wanted a little bit more out of it. And that's it, folks. That's all I got. Next week, hopefully, I'll get to go see Peanut Butter Falcon. And I'm searching for a show right now. I'm all out of shows. I just started the Katie Sackhoff show, Afterlife. So I'll talk about that next week as well. In the meantime, go check me out on Facebook, Mediamosh. Go check me out on Twitter, @ShaneMediamosh. Go to www.mediamosh.podbean.com. And go to your iTunes Apple Store, download me, share me, give me that 5-star review. I know you want to. Take 1 minute out of your fucking day and write me a review, please. And then circle back and go check out Mr. Argue Myself, Chris Rodell. And he's going to have his Once Upon a Time in Hollywood review up pretty soon. And I'm pretty sure we're going to disagree on this. I have a feeling we're going to disagree on this film just a little bit. But go check him out on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. 3 different platforms for 3 different types of contact. Until then, folks, have a great fucking week. Until then, get caught up in the mosh.